He fled to that forgotten cabin to escape the lies that caged him. But in Nathan's arms, Elliot tasted a forbidden truth that could shatter every secret he'd sworn to keep buried. One stolen kiss by the fire sparked a chain of betrayals, a storm of jealous accusations and whispered threats in the dark pines. Lila's venom, Jake's envy, Greg's letter, each one ripping at the fragile world they built behind those creaking cabin walls. Now Elliot stands torn between the life he dreamed of and the man who saw him when no one else dared to look. Will he run back to the safety of silence, or gamble everything on a touch that feels like home but could ruin them both forever? As the car waits, as Nathan's eyes beg him to stay, only one choice remains: give in to fear or surrender to a love that could cost him everything. I was 22 when I fled to that cabin in Oregon's pine forests, running from a life that felt like a cage. My name's Elliot Harper, and back then, I was a mess of nerves and half-finished sketches. Growing up in a small, conservative town, I'd learned to hide who I was. My parents didn't know I was gay, nobody did. Every day, I swallowed my truth, terrified of their judgment, their disappointment. My art was my only escape, but even that felt like a lie. I'd sketch faces, hands, moments I couldn't have, pouring my longing into lines I'd never show. When my dad caught me kissing a boy at 17, he didn't speak to me for a week. That silence carved a wound I still carried, a fear I'd never be enough. I just graduated art school, but my portfolio was rejected by every gallery I tried. Too raw, they said, or lacking focus. I felt like a fraud, my dreams crumbling under the weight of my own doubt. Then came the fight with Mom. She wanted me to settle down, get a real job, marry a nice girl. I snapped, told her I needed space, and stormed out. My uncle, Greg, offered a lifeline: a month at his friend's cabin in the woods. "It'll clear your head," he said. I didn't argue. I packed my sketch pads, a duffel bag, and drove west, my heart pounding with equal parts fear and relief. The cabin was a weathered thing, tucked between pines, with a porch that sagged under years of rain. I arrived at dusk, my car rattling over the gravel. The air was sharp, smelling of earth and sap, but I barely noticed. I was too busy unloading my supplies, my hands shaking from the drive and the weight of leaving everything behind. That's when I saw him, Nathan Cole, the man who owned the place. He was chopping wood near the shed, his flannel shirt stretched across broad shoulders. He was maybe 42, with salt and pepper hair and a jawline that could cut glass. His blue eyes flicked up, catching mine, and I froze. There was something in his stare, hard, unreadable, but it sent a jolt through me. "You, Elliot?" His voice was low, rough, like he didn't use it much. I nodded, my throat tight. "Nathan," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. He didn't smile, just sized me up like I was an intruder. I mumbled something about staying a month, my words tripping over themselves. He grunted, grabbed one of my canvases, and carried it inside without asking. I followed, my cheeks burning, already feeling out of place. The cabin was sparse: wooden floors, a stone fireplace, a single couch. Nathan dropped my canvas by the door and pointed to a small bedroom. "That's yours. Don't make a mess." I wanted to shrink into the floor. His presence filled the room, all muscle and quiet intensity. I muttered a thanks, avoiding his eyes, but I felt them on me as I unpacked. He lingered by the door, watching, and I wondered if he could see through me, see the fear, the secrets I buried. "Dinner's at 7, he said finally, turning away. I exhaled, my heart racing for reasons I couldn't name. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, picking in a plate of steak and potatoes he'd cooked. He didn't talk much, just asked about my art in a way that felt like a test. "You any good?" he said, his fork pausing midair. "I don't know," I admitted, my voice small. "I try." He nodded, like that was enough, but his gaze lingered too long, and I felt exposed. I excused myself early, retreating to my room to sketch. My pencil traced the lines of his face, sharp cheekbones, the faint scar above his eyebrow. I tore the page out, stuffed it under my mattress. I couldn't let him see that. Not him. Not anyone. But as I lay in bed, the creak of his footsteps outside my door kept me awake. I didn't know it then, but that moment, his eyes, his voice, the way my skin prickled under his stare, was the start of something I couldn't stop. I didn't sleep much that night. My mind churned with questions. Why did Nathan live out here, alone? Why did he look at me like he was searching for something? I told myself it was nothing, just my imagination running wild. But deep down, I felt it. A pull, a spark, something dangerous and alive. I pushed it away, buried it under layers of doubt. I'd come here to find myself, not to lose myself in someone else. Yet, as the pines whispered outside, I couldn't shake the feeling that Nathan Cole was about to change everything. The next morning, I woke to the sound of an axe splitting wood. My head was foggy, still tangled in dreams of Nathan's face, those sharp blue eyes, the way they'd pinned me last night. I shoved the thought down, splashing cold water on my face. I was here to focus, not to unravel. But when I stepped onto the porch, there he was, stacking logs, his shirt clinging to his back with sweat. I froze, my sketch pad clutched tight. He glanced up, catching me staring. "You gonna stand there all day?" he called, his voice gruff, but not unkind. I mumbled an apology, hurrying to the shed to grab paint supplies, but Nathan followed. "Need help with those?" he asked, already lifting a box of brushes. Our hands brushed as he handed it over, and my breath caught. His fingers were rough, calloused, nothing like mine. I pulled back too fast, nearly dropping the box. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing, just pointed to a clearing. "Good spot to paint, if that's what you're here for." I nodded, my face hot, and set up my easel, pretending to focus while his presence lingered like a shadow. We didn't talk much that day, but Nathan kept finding reasons to be near. He fixed a loose porch step while I sketched, his hammer's rhythm matching my pulse. At lunch, he slid a sandwich across the table, his fingers grazing mine again. "Eat," he said, his voice low. I managed a thanks, but my stomach twisted, not from hunger. His gaze felt heavier now, like he was studying me, peeling back layers I'd spent years hiding. I tried to focus on my canvas, but my lines kept drifting, curves of his jaw, the slope of his shoulders. By afternoon, a pipe burst in the cabin's bathroom. Nathan cursed, grabbing tools, and I offered to help, desperate to prove I wasn't useless. We knelt side by side, our shoulders brushing in the cramped space. "All this," he said, passing me a wrench. His breath was warm against my neck, and I fumbled, my hands shaking. "Steady," he murmured, his voice softer now, and I swear his eyes flicked to my lips. I turned away, heart pounding, telling myself I'd imagined it, but the air between us crackled, thick with something I didn't dare name. That night, he cooked again, venison stew, simple but good. We sat at the table, the silence heavy. "You don't talk much," he said, breaking it. I shrugged, poking at my food. "Not much to say." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Bullshit. Kid like you, got a whole world in your head." I flinched at kid, but his tone wasn't mocking. It was curious, almost gentle. "What's your deal, Elliot? Why are you out here hiding?" I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "I'm not hiding," I lied, my voice sharp. He smirked, like he saw right through me. "Right, keep telling yourself that." I wanted to snap back, but my words caught. Instead, I asked, "What about you? Why are you out here alone?" His face hardened, just for a second, before he shrugged. "Easier this way, less noise." But his eyes said something else, something raw, like he'd been burned and was still licking his wounds. I wanted to push, to ask more, but the way he looked at me stopped me cold. It wasn't just curiosity, it was hunger, and it scared me as much as it thrilled me. Later, I sat on the porch, sketching under the lantern's glow. Nathan joined me, beer in hand, sitting closer than he needed to. "Show me one," he said, nodding at my sketch pad. My heart sank. I flipped to a safe drawing, a tree, nothing personal, but his knee brushed mine as he leaned in, and I forgot how to breathe. "Not bad," he said, his voice low, his breath warm against my ear. I jerked back, muttering about needing sleep, and fled to my room. Alone, I pressed my hands to my face, trying to calm the fire in my chest. I wanted him. God, I wanted him. But every fiber of me screamed it was wrong. He was older, guarded, probably straight. I was a kid with no business feeling this way. But when I closed my eyes, all I saw was his face, his hands, the way he looked at me like I was something worth seeing. The next day, Nathan asked me to help clear a trail. We worked in silence, but every time he passed me a tool or steadied me over a root, his touch lingered. Once, he grabbed my arm to stop me from tripping, his grip firm, his thumb brushing my wrist. "Careful," he said, his voice rough, and I couldn't look at him. My skin burned where he'd touched me, and I hated how much I wanted more. I told myself to stop, to focus on why I was here, but every glance, every word, pulled me closer to something I couldn't control. I was falling, and I didn't know how to stop. The days blurred, each one pulling me deeper into Nathan's orbit. I tried to focus on my art, but my sketches kept turning into him, his hands, his eyes, the way his jaw tightened when he thought I wasn't looking. I told myself it was nothing, just a stupid crush, but every time he brushed past me or spoke in that low, gravelly voice, my resolve cracked. I was scared, scared of what I felt, scared of what it meant. I'd spent years hiding who I was, and now, in this cabin, with him, I felt exposed, like he could see every secret I'd buried. It was a rainy evening, the kind that made the cabin feel smaller, the air thick with tension. Nathan had been quieter all day, his eyes lingering on me longer than usual. I was washing dishes, my hands shaky, when the power flickered out. The room went dark, save for the faint glow of the fireplace. I cursed under my breath, dropping a plate into the sink. Nathan appeared behind me, closer than I expected. "Stay put," he said, his voice steady. "I'll get the candles." I nodded, my heart hammering, hyper-aware of his presence as he moved past, his arm grazing mine. He returned with a candle, setting it on the counter. The flame cast shadows across his face, softening the hard lines. We stood there, the silence heavy, the rain pounding outside. "You okay?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I swallowed, my throat tight. "Yeah." I lied, but my voice cracked, betraying me. He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the wood smoke on his clothes, feel the heat of him. "You don't look okay," he said, softer now, almost a whisper. I should have moved, should have said something to break the moment, but I couldn't. My eyes dropped to his lips, and I hated myself for it. "Nathan, I started." But the words died. He reached out, slow, deliberate, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered, brushing my cheek, and I froze, my breath hitching. "What are you so afraid of, Elliot?" he asked, his voice low, rough with something I didn't dare name. I wanted to lie, to say I wasn't afraid, but the truth clawed its way out. "You," I whispered. "This." His eyes darkened, and for a moment, I thought he'd pull away. But he didn't. His hand slid to the back of my neck, gentle but firm, and my world tilted. "Tell me to stop," he said, his voice barely audible. I couldn't. I didn't want to. My hands found his chest, trembling, and I felt his heart pounding under my palms. Then he kissed me, slow at first, tentative, like he was testing the waters. My knees buckled, and I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer. The kiss deepened, hungry, desperate, and I was drowning in it, in him. I broke away, gasping, my mind screaming that this was wrong, dangerous. "We can't," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm not. I don't know what I'm doing." Nathan's hand stayed on my neck, his thumb brushing my jaw. "Neither do I," he admitted, his voice raw, "but I don't want to stop." His words hit me like a punch, stirring something deep, something I'd locked away for years. I leaned in again, kissing him harder, my hands sliding under his shirt, feeling the warmth of his skin. He groaned softly, his fingers tightening in my hair, and for a moment, nothing else existed, just us, the fire, the rain. But then I pulled back, my chest heaving, guilt crashing over me. "What if someone finds out?" I whispered, my voice breaking. "What if?" I couldn't finish. Nathan's face softened, but there was pain in his eyes, like he'd been here before. "No one's here but us," he said, but his voice held an edge, like he was convincing himself too. I stepped back, my hands shaking, torn between wanting to run and wanting to stay. "I need time," I said, barely audible. He nodded, his jaw tight, and let me go. I fled to my room, my heart pounding, my lips still tingling from his kiss. I locked the door, sank to the floor, and pressed my hands to my face. I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross, and it terrified me. I wanted him, God. I wanted him. But the fear was louder. What if this ruined me? What if he didn't feel the same? I heard his footsteps outside, pausing by my door, and my breath caught. He didn't knock, didn't speak, but I saw him there, waiting. When his steps faded, I curled up on the bed, my mind a storm of desire and doubt. I tasted something I couldn't unlearn, and it changed everything. The morning after our kiss, I could barely look at Nathan. My lips still burned with the memory of his, and every time he passed me carrying firewood, fixing a creaky door, my stomach twisted. I wanted to talk, to undo the line we'd crossed, but the words wouldn't come. He acted normal, gruff as ever, but his eyes lingered too long, heavy with something unspoken. I stayed busy, sketching furiously, trying to bury the heat in my chest. But the cabin felt smaller, the air thick with what we weren't saying. Then everything shattered. It was late afternoon when a car crunched up the gravel drive. I froze, pencil in hand, as Nathan glanced out the window, his jaw tightening. "Stay here," he muttered, heading outside. I ignored him, peering through the blinds. A woman stepped out, mid-40s, blonde hair pulled tight, her face sharp with purpose. Nathan's voice was low, tense. "Lima, what the hell are you doing here?" Lima, his ex-wife. My uncle had mentioned her once, a messy divorce, years ago. I lost her stride toward Nathan, her heels sinking into the dirt. "We need to talk," she said, her voice clipped, "about the house, and other things." Her eyes flicked to the cabin, landing on me through the window. I ducked back, my heart racing, but it was too late. She'd seen me. Nathan led her inside, his shoulders stiff. I stood awkwardly by the couch, clutching my sketch pad like a shield. Lila's gaze swept over me, cold and calculating. "This the kid Greg sent?" she asked, not bothering to look at me. Nathan nodded, his voice flat. "Elliot, he's staying a month." Lila's lips curled, not quite a smile. "Cute. You always did have a thing for strays." I bristled, but Nathan shot me a look. "Stay quiet." I bit my tongue, my face burning. Lila sat at the kitchen table, pulling out papers. "The buyers want to close next week," she said. "Sign these." Nathan scanned the documents, his jaw tight. "You could have mailed this," he said. Lila laughed, sharp and bitter. "And miss seeing you play house out here? No way." Her words hung in the air, and I felt Nathan tense beside me. I wanted to disappear, but Lila's eyes kept darting to me, like she was piecing something together. "You're awfully quiet, Elliot," she said, her tone probing. What's your story? I shrugged, my voice unsteady. Just here to paint. She leaned forward, her smile thin. Right. And Nathan's playing host. How cozy. Nathan slammed the papers down. Enough, Lila. Say what you came to say. She didn't flinch, just leaned back, crossing her arms. I know you, Nathan. You're not this hospitable. What's going on here? My stomach dropped. She didn't know about the kiss. Couldn't know. But her words felt like a blade. Nathan's face was stone, but his hand clenched the table's edge. Nothing's going on, he said, his voice low. Dangerous. Sign the damn papers and go. Lila didn't move. You're different, she said, her eyes narrowing. Happier. Maybe. It's him, isn't it? She nodded at me, and my blood ran cold. I opened my mouth to deny it, but nothing came out. Nathan stood, towering over her. You're out of line, he growled. Get out. Lila laughed again, standing slowly. Fine, but I'm not blind. Be careful. Mason, you know how this ends. She left the papers and walked out, her heels clicking. The door slammed, and silence crashed over us. I couldn't breathe, couldn't look at Nathan. She's gone, he said finally, his voice rough. Forget her. But I couldn't. Her words echoed. You know how this ends, and fear clawed at me. What if she told someone? What if my uncle found out? I'd lose everything, my family, my future. Elliot, Nathan said, stepping closer. I flinched, backing away. Don't. I whispered. What if she's right? He reached for me, but I shook my head, my hands trembling. We shouldn't have. I can't do this. My voice broke, and I hated how small I sounded. Nathan's face fell, pain flashing in his eyes. You think I wanted this? He said, his voice raw. I didn't ask for you to show up then. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. I'm not sorry, he said quieter. But if you want out, say it. I couldn't. I wanted to scream that I was terrified, that I wanted him more than I'd ever wanted anything, but the risk felt too big. I turned away, my eyes burning, and fled to my room. I heard him pacing outside, his boots heavy on the floor. He didn't knock, didn't push, but I felt his presence through the door, heavy with everything we couldn't say. While his visit had changed something, made it real. We weren't just two people in a cabin anymore. There was a world outside, waiting to judge us, to tear us apart. I curled up on the bed, my sketch pad abandoned, and wondered if I just ruined the only thing that ever felt right. Lila's visit left a crack in everything. I couldn't shake her words, the way her eyes cut through me, like she'd seen every hidden piece of me. Nathan tried to act like nothing had changed, but I caught him watching me, his jaw tight, his hands restless. I avoided him, staying in my room, sketching until my fingers ached. But the cabin was too small, the air too heavy with what we'd done. Every creak of the floorboards felt like a warning, like the world was closing in. Then Jake showed up, my childhood friend, the one person who knew I was gay, though I'd never told him how deep it ran. He texted a week ago, saying he was passing through Oregon, and I'd stupidly told him where I was. I didn't expect him to actually come, but there he was, banging on the cabin door at noon, his lanky frame filling the doorway, his grin too wide. Elliot, you hermit, he called, pulling me into a hug. I stiffened, glancing at Nathan, who stood by the kitchen, arms crossed, his face unreadable. Jake, what are you doing here? I asked, my voice tight. He laughed, tossing his backpack on the couch. Checking on you, man. You ghosted everyone. His eyes flicked to Nathan, sizing him up. This your landlord? Nathan nodded, his voice cold. Nathan Cole, you staying long? Jake shrugged, his smile sharp. Just a night. Gotta make sure my boy's okay. I cringed at my boy, but Nathan's eyes darkened, and I felt the tension spike. Dinner was a disaster. Jake kept talking, filling the silence with stories from back home, but his hand kept brushing mine, lingering too long. Nathan noticed, his fork scraping the plate harder than necessary. So, you too close? Nathan asked, his voice low. Dangerous. Jake grinned, leaning back. Best friends since we were kids, right, Elliot? I nodded, my throat dry, but Jake's tone was too familiar, too possessive. Nathan's gaze burned into me, and I couldn't meet it. After dinner, Jake followed me to the porch, his voice dropping. What's with you? And this guy? He asked, his eyes narrow. You're acting weird. I froze, my heart pounding. Nothing's going on. I lied, but my voice shook. Jake stepped closer, his hand on my arm. Come on, Elliot. I know you. You're into him, aren't you? I yanked my arm away, panic rising. Keep your voice down, I hissed. But Nathan was there, stepping outside, his face like stone. Everything okay? He asked, his eyes flicking between us. Jake laughed, bitter. Oh, I get it. You're his type, huh? He turned to me, his voice loud enough to carry. You think this guy's gonna stick around? He's old enough to be your dad. Elliot. My face burned, shame and anger twisting inside me. Shut up, Jake. I snapped, but he kept going. You always do this. Fall for guys who'll break you. I'm trying to protect you. Nathan's fist clenched, and I saw the hurt in his eyes, masked by fury. Get out, he growled at Jake. Now, Jake didn't move, his jaw set. You don't scare me, he said. Elliot, Tell me you're not this stupid. I exploded. You don't get to decide what I want. I shouted, my voice cracking. You don't know me anymore. Jake flinched, but his eyes were hard. Fine, ruin your life. He grabbed his bag and stormed to his car, the engine roaring as he sped off. I stood there, shaking, the weight of his words crushing me. He'd seen it, seen us, and now it wasn't just ours anymore. Nathan grabbed my arm, pulling me inside. What the hell was that? He demanded, his voice raw. You told him about us? I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. I didn't. He just guessed. Nathan laughed, cold and sharp. Guessed? You let him talk like he owns you. Jealousy dripped from his words, and it cut deeper than I expected. He doesn't, I said, my voice breaking. But you're acting like I'm some kid who doesn't know better. Maybe Jake's right. Maybe this is a mistake. Nathan's face crumpled, just for a second, before it hardened again. You think I planned this? He said, stepping closer, his voice low, furious. You think I wanted to feel this way about you? I was fine before you showed up. His words hit like a slap, and I felt my chest cave. Then why didn't you stop? I shouted back. You kissed me. Mason, you made me think. I stopped, my throat closing. He looked away, his hands shaking. I don't know what I'm doing, he admitted, quieter now. But I know I don't want you to leave. I couldn't stay there. Couldn't breathe with him so close, his anger and pain mirroring mine. I need to go, I said, grabbing my jacket. He reached for me, but I pulled away. Elliot, don't, he said, his voice breaking. But I was already out the door, running into the dark, my heart pounding with fear and betrayal. Jake's words, Nathan's jealousy, Lila's suspicions, they were all too much. I'd let myself want something I couldn't have, and now it was falling apart. I ran until my lungs burned, the forest swallowing me whole. Jake's words, Nathan's anger, my own shame, they chased me, louder than the crunch of leaves under my feet. I stopped by the lake, gasping, my hands on my knees. The water was still, reflecting the moan, and I wanted to scream into it, to break something. I'd let myself fall for Nathan, let myself believe we could be something, and now it was unraveling. I sank to the ground, my face wet with tears I hadn't realized I'd shed. I was so tired of hiding, of being afraid. I don't know how long I sat there before I heard footsteps. My heart leapt, half hoping, half dreading it was him. Nathan's silhouette emerged from the trees, his face shadowed but his eyes catching the moonlight. Elliot, he said, his voice rough, urgent. You can't just run off like that. I stood, wiping my face, my chest tight. Why not? I snapped. You said it yourself. You were fine before me. Maybe you still should be. He flinched, stepping closer. I didn't mean that, he said, his voice low, raw. I was angry. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. I'm not good at this, Elliot. I don't know how to do this. I laughed, bitter, my voice shaking. You think I do? I spend my whole life pretending I'm someone I'm not. And then you make me feel things I'm not supposed to feel. My words hung between us, heavy, and I saw the pain in his eyes, mirroring mine. He took another step, close enough that I could feel his warmth. I'm scared too, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. After my divorce, I swore I'd never let anyone in again. Mila broke me, Elliot. And then you showed up, and he stopped, his jaw tight. I can't stop thinking about you. It's killing me. My breath caught, and I felt the air shift, like the world was holding its breath. Then why fight with me? I asked, my voice breaking. Why make me feel like I'm nothing? You're not nothing, he said fiercely, grabbing my shoulders. His hands were warm, steady, and I wanted to pull away but couldn't. You're everything I didn't know I needed, and it terrifies me, because I don't know how to keep you safe from people like Lila. My Jake. His thumbs brushed my collarbone, and my skin prickled, a shiver running through me. I looked up, meeting his eyes, and saw everything, fear, guilt, desire, all laid bare. I don't need you to keep me safe, I said, my voice steadier now. I just need you to be honest. He exhaled, his hand sliding to my face, cupping my cheeks. I want you, he said, each word deliberate, like a confession. I've wanted you since the moment you got here, fumbling with your damn paints, looking at me like I was something more than a broken-down soldier. My heart pounded, and I felt tears sting my eyes again, but this time they weren't from shame. I leaned in, closing the gap, and kissed him. It wasn't like before, tentative, unsure. This was desperate, raw, like we were trying to say everything we couldn't with words. His hand slid to my waist, pulling me closer, and I felt his heart racing against mine. My fingers tangled in his hair, and he groaned softly, his lips moving to my jaw, my neck, each touch sending sparks through me. I pressed myself against him, needing to feel him, to know this was real. His hands tightened, grounding me, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid. We pulled back, breathless, foreheads pressed together. I don't know what this means, I whispered, my voice trembling. I don't know how to do this either. Nathan's thumb brushed my lip, his eyes soft but intense. We'll figure it out, he said. Together. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself fall completely, but Jake's words still echoed, and Lila's threat loomed. I nodded, but doubt lingered, sharp and cold. We walked back to the cabin in silence, his hand brushing mine, a quiet promise. Inside, he lit the fire, and we sat on the couch, closer than we'd ever been. I leaned into him, my head on his shoulder, and his arm wrapped around me, heavy, warm. We didn't speak, didn't need to. His fingers traced circles on my arm, and I felt safe, wanted, for the first time in years. But deep down, I knew it couldn't last, not with the world waiting to tear us apart. Still, in that moment, with his heartbeat steady against me, I let myself believe we could be enough. That night by the fire, with Nathan's arm around me, felt like a dream I didn't deserve. His touch, steady and warm, anchored me. But the world outside the cabin loomed like a storm. I wanted to stay in that moment, his breath soft against my hair, but fear gnawed at me. Jake's accusations, Lila's suspicions, they were cracks in the fragile thing we built. I didn't know how to hold on to it, or if I even could. Morning came too fast, and with it, a letter that changed everything. It was slipped under the cabin door, my name scrawled in my Uncle Greg's handwriting. I tore it open, my hands shaking, while Nathan watched from the kitchen, his coffee mug paused midair. The words blurred at first, but then they hit me. A gallery in New York wanted my art, a scholarship, a chance to study, to show my work, my dream, handed to me on paper. But there was a catch. Uncle Greg was coming to pick me up in 2 days. Your parents are worried, he wrote. Come home, Elliot. This is your shot. My stomach dropped. Home meant facing them, their expectations, their judgment. It meant leaving Nathan. I looked up, and Nathan's eyes were on me, sharp, like you know. What is it? He asked, his voice low. I handed him the letter. My throat tight. He read it, his jaw tightening with every line. New York, he said finally, setting the paper down. That's what you wanted, right? His tone was neutral, but his eyes betrayed him, hurt, guarded, like he was already pulling away. I wanted to scream that it wasn't that simple, that I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Yeah, I said instead, my voice small, but I didn't expect it now. He nodded, looking away, his hands gripping the counter. You should go, he said, his voice rough. This is your chance. Don't throw it away for, he stopped, but I heard the unspoken words. For me, my chest ached. Nathan, I don't know what to do, I admitted, stepping closer. I want this, but I want you too. His eyes snapped to mine, raw, searching. You can't have both, he said, quieter now. Not with me stuck out here. And you've got a whole life ahead of you. Before I could respond, tires crunched outside. My heart sank. It wasn't Greg, not yet. It was Maggie, the storekeeper from town, her truck loaded with supplies. She knocked, her smile warm but curious as she stepped inside. Brought you boys some groceries, she said, her eyes flicking between us. Heard some talk in town, though. Lila's been mouthing off, saying things about you too. My blood ran cold. Nathan's face hardened, but he forced a nod. Thanks, Maggie. We're fine. She lingered, her gaze soft, but knowing. Just watch yourselves, she said. Folks talk. Maggie left, but her words hung heavy. Lila had spread rumors, and now the town was whispering. If Greg heard, if my parents found out, I'd lose them. I turned to Nathan, panic rising. What if she tells Greg? I asked, my voice shaking. He'll tell my parents, and they'll. I couldn't finish. Nathan stepped closer, his hands on my shoulders, steadying me. Let them talk, he said, his voice firm but soft. You don't owe them anything, but I did. I owed them years of silence, years of pretending I was the son they wanted. That night, I couldn't sleep. Nathan stayed on the couch, giving me space, but I felt him through the walls, his presence pulling at me. I slipped out to the porch, clutching the letter, my sketch pad forgotten. The choice was suffocating. New York, my art, a chance to be someone, or Nathan, the only person who'd ever seen me, really seen me. I heard the door creak, and Nathan was there, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. You're leaving, aren't you? He asked, his voice barely audible. I wanted to lie, to say I'd stay, but the words wouldn't come. I don't know, I said, my voice breaking. I'm scared. Mason, scared of losing you, scared of losing them, scared of screwing this up. He stepped closer, his hand brushing my cheek, his touch electric. You won't lose me, he said, but his eyes were sad, like he didn't believe it. But you need to choose what's right for you, not me. I leaned into his touch, my heart pounding, torn between the life I dreamed of and the man in front of me. The next morning, Greg's car pulled up. I stood on the porch, the letter crumpled in my hand. Nathan behind me, silent. Greg stepped out, his face stern but tired. Elliot, we need to talk, he said, glancing at Nathan. No. My stomach twisted. This was it, the moment I had to choose. I looked at Nathan, his eyes locked on mine, full of everything we'd shared, everything we could lose. I took a step toward Greg, my heart splitting, but I didn't know if I was walking away from Nathan or toward him. The door was open, and I had to decide.